So, earlier this month, I had an experience that I never thought I would have. As someone who generally regards myself as being careful, as someone who generally regards myself as taking the proper precautions, the measures necessary to engage with psychoactive substances in a manner that reduces harm. But I was impulsive, and I was caught by a certain impulsivity that I don't think just exists in me as someone with uh, a variety of different mental health conditions, but an impulsivity that I think could grab a lot of different people in their worst moments. And uh, for this reason, the existence of this impulsivity, uh, I think it's all the more evidence that these substances should be regarded with the utmost care. What am I talking about? I overdosed on fentanyl. Uh, I had some heroin that had fentanyl in it. Um, I took it. I had been taking it without having tested my substance for fentanyl, and for a while doing just fine because I was taking very very small amounts and then titrating my dose upwards, doing fine in that regard. But I had been consistently redosing throughout the day, just about every day. I was pretty much always on heroin. Um, and one day, my father um, came to me with, uh, let's just say, you know, not the nicest of things to tell someone. Um, and I left the room in such a a stupor of anger and sadness that I just set up a line and I did it, and then I set up another line and I did it. Um, I measured everything out. It's not like I didn't measure what I had, but it was like on the upper limit of, if it were pure heroin, how much heroin you should be doing at one time. And because it had apparently, as I found out when I went to the hospital, had fentanyl in it, um, it was, well above that limit. And so, I end up um, progressively becoming more and more sick. I feel like so encumbered that it's like my whole body is um, is like washing over me with like feelings of nausea, and uh, like a heavy weight is like just washing over my whole body. And I was like shaking uncontrollably, like everywhere. I could feel my eyes perspirating. It was like a really like physically intensive experience, is what I'm trying to get across. Um, and it ultimately culminated in me falling like near unconscious as my breathing had become so shallow that I almost, um, stopped stopped breathing. Um, it was at this point that my mother noticed something was wrong, as did I, and the ambulance was called. And from there, um, I was taken off to the hospital. I was immediately given Narcan in the ambulance, and that was that. Um, it was a terrifying experience, one that like was in no way pleasurable. Like a lot of people, I think they have this conception about opiates or overdosing on opiates, like it's really nice at the start and then it like gets super scary and bad. It got super scary and bad like pretty fast, um, and at no point was it pleasurable. It was just like I don't even know how to describe it. It was like my whole body felt like there was this like heavy weight on me. And I think maybe it was because of the trouble I had breathing, but it was a terrifying thing. Um, there were several mistakes that I made, up to that experience. I think one was not allowing myself to take a breather, not considering what I was doing, like just impulsively going, I'm gonna do, you know, all of this drug and I don't give a fuck what happens to me, you know, that was a form of self-harm. Um, and that was something that ultimately came out of like a state that was not rational. That was I was not behaving like a rational actor in that situation. Another thing was not even having tested the drug in the first place, like just going off of my intuition, going off of like doing really, really small amounts and building up. I mean, it's not as bad as like having an untested drug and then, you know, doing like a full dose, but it's still pretty bad, you know? Like the fact that I didn't even know um, that it it wasn't like proper heroin, that it was a little contaminated, like that was another component to this that was just, you know, completely and totally irresponsible. um, and I think even just having the substance in the first place when I was you know, in a more than tumultuous period, am in a more than tumultuous period as someone with, once again, a variety of mental health conditions. I just don't think that someone like that can be expected to take the proper precautions, or to be responsible in that situation. It sort of tests the limits of free will and free choice, you know? Um, and it's for all of these reasons that um, in addition to, you know, how traumatic and terrifying that experience was, that I just want nothing to do with this stuff anymore. Like, I don't want to do drugs. Um, I want to be sober. I want to be clean. Um, I I don't want to have something like that happen again. Like, there have been too many times when I've done something really stupid and irresponsible with drugs that I knew was stupid and irresponsible, but just did anyway. Because, hey, I'm gonna kill myself anyway, right? So it doesn't matter what I do. Well, it does matter what I do. Like, you have that experience and then you realize how much you don't actually want to die. You think you want to die, but you don't want to die. It's terrifying. Like, being that close to the edge and feeling it like everywhere in your body, it's terrifying. And it was through that experience, and then looking back at like all of the prior experiences that I've had that were like close to the edge because of how stupid and irresponsible I was being with this stuff, it, it made me realize, like, I just have to stop. I have to stop for good. I can't. I just can't. I can't be led around this stuff. It doesn't stop the world of psychoactive substances from being really, really interesting. You know, like, I don't think I could ever stop reading about other people's experiences or the academic component to it. But as far as I'm concerned, you know, what I'm doing with myself and to myself, I want nothing to do with it. I, like, I just can't. Like, that happened. And after all of the times that I've tried to get sober, I've tried to get sober over and over and over and over again. And it seems like I just fall right back into the same place. And then I start kind of justifying my behavior, like, oh, it's just in moderation, you know, it's just to feel good. It's my choice, you know. It it's not that bad what I'm doing, you know. Oh, or it's just happening to me. It's not happening to anyone else. Like, there's a myriad of different excuses or justifications I'll give for my behavior. But after that, I don't think I can just go sober and then quit being sober again. Like, I don't think I have I don't think I have the stones. I don't think I'm at liberty to just give up on sobriety again. I don't think it's responsible. I don't think someone like me should do that. And I think there's plenty of people out there who are just like me who it isn't responsible to do that for either. And this video is not for the people who, you know, are like taking themselves like in well regard, like they're treating themselves with the proper respect, treating everything they do with the proper respect. It's not for those people. You're out there. We don't need to mention you a million times to acknowledge that you exist. This is for the people who have a real problem. I have to admit that I have a real problem. You don't get into a situation like the one I got into if you don't have a real problem. And I don't want to have that problem anymore. Now, when I started using drugs and I saw how much easier it made it to deal with the world, I thought that this was like one of the best things that existed. Because after all of the psychiatric meds I tried again and again and again that didn't work or worked for a little bit and then stopped, after all of the traditional solutions I sought and attempted again, it didn't work, and then recreational drugs worked, I thought that that was finally the solution. I could finally find refuge from the barrage of intense, uncomfortable things happening in my brain at almost all times. But it wasn't a refuge. It was a mirage. It was a farce. Because something that is helping you, or the relationship that you have to a thing that is ostensibly helpful, does not end up with you in situations like that. It doesn't end there, you know? But that's where it ended for me, which means it's not something I can be trusted with. I don't think so. I think if I don't get sober, I'll just die. Like, what if there was no Narcan? Like, what if that literally didn't exist? I would have just died. If it was some other drug that isn't so easy to treat the OD symptoms for, I would have just died. I started doing heroin, and it was like that drug, more than any drug that I had tried before, just made it all disappear. All of the flashbacks I had, all of the constant anxiety that I have, it was all gone. I'd do a line, another line, just periodically throughout the day, made it all go away. And eventually it was like, when I didn't have it, that was all I could think about. I started having dreams about heroin. And now, I just don't want to do any of this stuff ever again. Never again.